Welcome to the Off Balance Podcast, where faith, family, and business collide with your host, Dr. Brooks Deming, Christian life coach and entrepreneur.
Welcome back to Off Balance. I'm your host, Dr. Brooks. My guest today is Marissa Jones, a dynamic founder of Girls Talk, a movement rooted in empowering women to become the best version of themselves. Known as a women's empowerment motivator, Marissa combines her passion for physical health, spiritual well-being, and authentic connection to uplift and inspire. She creates a space for honest conversations, encouraging women to show up for themselves, mind, body, and soul. Off Balance. Welcome to the show, Marissa Jones.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Before we get started, can you tell our listeners who you are and what it is that you do?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marissa Jones, and I am a licensed minister. I am the founder of Girls Talk, where I motivate women to become their best self. After going through some challenges and trials myself, I decided that I didn't want any woman left behind in the shadows, and I decided that I wanted to create a space for women to be able to come together and talk about real life issues and also spirituality, because I believe mental health and spirituality works hand in hand. So I'm that girl that likes to listen and meet people and connect everybody together so that we can grow and learn from each other.
Girls Talk is such a powerful name. What inspired you to start it, and how does physical and spiritual health play a role in the mission behind your organization?
Every woman wants that relationship with a friend where you have a safe space to connect and talk about personal issues, things that you may not feel comfortable talking about. And so I can just remember having friends that were close to me that were able to be in my circle, that created a space for me to be my true self, to be able to speak freely and to talk about my feelings and what I was going through at the time. So I wanted it to be a space where women were able to come together. And even if you don't have a situation in your life where you may not be dealing with something, but you have something to bring to the table to be able to assist and be able to lift another sister up that's going through, it's for you as well. You asked about the physical and the spiritual part of it. I believe that mental health and spirituality works hand in hand. And you can't have a spiritual life if your mind is not right. You can't have a place where you're able to think clearly if your mind isn't right. So in order for you to be able to do that, sometimes you have to decompress. Sometimes you have to be able to just let it all out. And then once you're able to do that, you're able to receive the spiritual counseling to give you faith and hope that even in every trial and situation, you're still able to go through.
I like that you said a safe space, because I know in my journey, I come across women, they may have been hurt by other women, and so they are very close and they just don't want anything to do with other women. So when it comes to new people coming to Girls Talk events, how do you reassure them that what is said in this room will stay in this room?
First of all, I feel that it's important to make it known in the beginning that Girls Talk is a safe space, and what is released in the room stays in the room. I think that whenever a woman comes to an event of Girls Talk, that you're seeking and searching something, and that you're needing something. You wouldn't want anybody to discuss your personal business or put your business out there that you're going through something that could be embarrassing to you, basically. You just want to set those boundaries from the beginning. You want to let them know, hey, this is a safe place and I want everybody to feel comfortable. So please just leave everything in the room.
You talked about overcoming adversity. So how do you define and cultivate resilience in your life? And what advice do you have for our listeners on developing that resilience in the face of challenges?
I think having a strong base and a strong circle to help whenever you are going through a challenge, it's important to have someone to be able to pour back into you, especially when you're empty. It's important for somebody to be able to speak life into you, into a lifeless situation. Sometimes I know as a woman, we get bogged down, we get frustrated, we are emotional a lot of times, and sometimes our thoughts may be foggy and we may not be able to see the end of the road. But it's important to have a positive circle, someone who's able to speak wisdom, someone who's able to turn you around and say, hey, let's pray about it, to have someone to pray with you, pray for you, be able to be your secret keeper. I recently created a group of ladies that I said was my battle buddies. It's important to have somebody that's able to battle with you, that's able to labor with you, and that's not going to get tired of you, because everybody's in a different step in life. I may have gone through something and I may be in a different phase, but I have to remember that everybody is not in the same phase as me. So grace is so important, especially dealing with adversity. You got to have grace to be able to deal.
Grace is definitely important. And what I heard you say was when your cup is empty, you need someone to pour into you. But what about the women that don't recognize that their cup is empty, that they may be on autopilot and they're just going? What are some signs that you can probably tell them to be able to recognize when they are empty?
The biggest thing for me is the frustration, the tiredness, the lag. After pouring out, you're frustrated at this point because you don't have anything else for yourself. You're frustrated because nobody is showing up for you. And you have to have somebody to pour back into you. But not only that, you have to set boundaries for yourself so that your well does not run dry. I know a lot of times with women, we are nurturers by nature. And so we want to be able to help and love everybody. But there comes a time where you have to be able to say that big word, no, I have to take care of me first. Whether that's with your husband, your children, your job, whatever it is, you have to take a step back and say, I have to do this for me. I have to take a moment for myself. And even with me, I'm learning that for myself, that I have to have time for myself, time to breathe, time to think, time to be able to pray, time to be able to talk to my friends, my circle. So you have to have time for yourself in order for you to be able to refuel and rest. It's okay to rest. It's okay to take a day to just say, you know what? I'm not doing anything. I'm not cooking. I'm not cleaning. I'm not answering the phone. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to lay in this bed and Netflix and chill and just recharge and refuel yourself.
Rest is such a hard word for a lot of women. A lot of women feel like if they are just gonna get behind or the house is gonna fall apart. You talked about just having for yourself. I like to call it reclaiming no, because boundaries are so important. If you don't have boundaries, what you would recognize is a lot of the tasks that you're doing is not even for yourself. You'll
Right.
see, oh my God, I'm taking the kids this place, running errands for this person, doing all of these things. And then the whole year goes by and you look back and what did I accomplish for myself this year? And it's absolutely nothing simply because you did not have boundaries and you overextended yourself. In your journey of empowering women, how have you personally balanced your own physical and spiritual well-being, especially when it comes to leading others?
That sometimes can become hard because still dealing with things as far as mental health issues, still dealing with self-esteem issues, still dealing with trying to sometimes wrap your mind around life issues, it can be very hard, especially when you have other people depending on you. You may be going through something and you may be having a situation where you may not even be want to deal with your own situation. But then you have people who may reach out to you for advice, people who may reach out to you for prayer. And you have to pull yourself together in order to show up for somebody else. You have to be able to suppress sometimes some of those things that may be bothering you. You may be having a bad day that day, but when somebody else is pulling on you, sometimes you just have to be selfless in order to show up for someone. And so I try to do that whenever I'm dealing with my life issues. I deal with anxiety. I deal with depression. I fight it each and every day. But I still have to say, you know what, Lord, I'm just going to surrender this to you and I'm going to continue on with my day. Having a journal sometimes work. I've learned that journaling has been a blessing for me to be able to write down your feelings and being able to sometimes speak over yourself, get in the mirror, self-affirm yourself. All of those things work. Walk outside, take a break. And then you're able to help somebody else. You're able to speak life into somebody else and help them figure out and navigate their situation. I think that it's just important for you to first show up for yourself so that you can show up for others.
I know sometimes within the church, there's a mental health stigma. So I'm so glad that you talked about anxiety and depression because sometimes believers feel like they don't have to deal with anxiety and depression. So when it comes to someone that's listening and they're like, I love God and I do all of these things for God, but I am still dealing with depression and anxiety. Do you have some type of tips that can help them with that to where they don't feel like something is wrong with them because here they are, a believer, but they're still dealing with mental health issues?
First of all, I would just say that you are human. We are still flesh. We live in this world, but we're not of the world, but we're still flesh. We still feel. We still have to recognize our feelings. That's first of all. Never let anybody tell you that your feelings are invalid, that you can't feel that way because you're saved, because you're in the church. Mental health is pushed to the back burner. But I am encouraging people to make sure that you put it first. You need to put it first and let the Lord know that you need assistance. I need help with this. This is more than I can bear. I can't handle it. Take time to talk to the Father about it and leave it with, and then advocate. Advocate for yourself. Just because, you are saved or you're in church and you're a believer, you don't have to have that stigma that, oh, that's not of God. Or I can't go and get help, because God wants us to have wise counsel. And wise counsel means that recognizing that there's a problem and going to talk to somebody about it. He put people on this earth to be able to help, physicians, counselors. He has medication on this earth for us to be able to function. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going to seek therapy in order for you to show up and be the best you can be. If you're in that situation, don't hesitate to go and get the counseling and the therapy that you need in order for you to be successful in your life. Because people will tell you, especially in the church, that, oh, that's not of God, that's not this and not that, but they're forgetting that we are human. We still feel fleshly things. So you have to check on you. And the best thing for you to do is to be able to go and get that help that you need.
That is such good advice because I am a firm believer of Christ and counseling. They go hand in hand. Of Christ and get on the.
Welcome to the Off Balance Podcast, where faith, family, and business collide with your host, Dr. Brooks Deming, Christian life coach, intercessor, and entrepreneur.
Are you tired of pushing forward but still feeling stuck? You've tried motivation, books, and other programs before, but consistency, boundaries, and resilience still feel out of reach. That's exactly why Dr. Brooks created the Rise coaching program. In just 8 weeks, you will walk through a proven framework to help you get rooted in purpose, identify boundaries, strengthen resilience, and execute with consistency. Imagine finally saying no without guilt, bouncing back faster from setbacks, and leading with the confidence you know you were created for. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start building momentum, this is your moment. Visit brooksdeming.com to book your spot in the Rise coaching program today.
Couch, because sometimes you need those strategies to be able to process things, and you need those strategies to be able to have some type of coping mechanism to make sure that you don't fall deeper into a depression if you have suicide ideologies to act upon that. And so I am so glad that you brought that up, because I know a lot of the times when I'm talking to people, they're so ashamed to say that I'm depressed, or so ashamed to say that I have anxiety, because they are a Christian. So thank you so much for bringing that up. So you have events that you do with Girls Talk. Do you have anything that's coming up soon, or anything that you're planning?
I am actually working on a Girls Talk Bible study via Zoom. I want to create a space in an innovative way to study the Bible together and be able to learn together and talk about some things in the Bible, some questions that women may have about different things, different scriptures. And so I am working on that. I also want to have another Girls Talk. This time I want to do like a panel. I want to do a panelist seminar where different women are on the panel from different phases of life, and also have a licensed clinical therapist there to talk about strategies and talk about what women need today, medically, mentally, emotionally, to get themselves at the highest level that they can be.
She does have an Facebook group. It's Girls Talk 2.0 VIP. I'm going to have a link in the description of this episode. So if you want to join her Facebook group, that's where she will put the information about her Zoom meetings, about any type of upcoming event, because she is doing really great things in the community. If you are listening to this episode and you feel like, I don't want any new friends, I'm telling you now, you have to change your mindset, because when it comes to relationships, one thing that I know is the enemy, the adversary, he will try to isolate you. And we already know that God says two is better than one. If you read Ecclesiastes, it talks about how two is better than one because they can labor together. It talks about how that if one falls, the other one can help them up. And so it is so important to have these relationships. So Marissa, can you talk about the importance of just having relationships and the importance of trust in relationships?
Wow. Relationships are very important. Like I said before, I created a group of ladies that I call my battle buddies. And it's just a couple of ladies, one lady that I fellowship with, and one lady that I am close friends with. And we get up each morning at 6 a.m. and we pray together. We cover each other throughout the day. We check on each other during the week, during lunch hour, just to see how their day is going. And I think that trust is so important. You have to have trust in a relationship. If you don't have trust, you don't have a relationship. And discerning, that's the big word, discerning the right people to be in your circle, to trust. Because everybody's not your friend. Everybody is not. And this is just a little gem for some people who are people pleasers, because I was one of those people who wanted to please everybody, make friends with everybody. You have to pray and ask God to send the right type of people in your life, the right type of friends that will support you, that will love you, and that you can trust, you can talk to, you can release to, because everybody out here does not have your best interests at heart. And it's an old saying, old cliche saying, but it's so true. Everybody doesn't have your best interests at heart. So you have to be able to discern the right people and know the fruits that they bear. So I would just tell people to just make sure that the people who you are around are of substance, somebody who's definitely going to be able to pour into you and pray you through.
Listen, that is so good. And I just want to add to that, when it comes to meeting new people, when it comes to building relationships, don't feel like you have to share your intimate business. Because sometimes with women, we go into a relationship and we just want to share all of this information. But if you are a person and you always find yourself being hurt over and over again, I want you to take a moment and to reflect on how fast did you move in that relationship and what information did you share? Because sometimes we can overshare things because we want that person to reciprocate that. And so you have to know, is this the person that I'm just supposed to be acquainted with, or is this the person that God wants me to go deeper with? And so that's where that prayer is going to come in into play. Your relationship with God is going to come into play. Because as soon as you meet people, you don't have to pour your life story out, right? You have to build that relationship and they have to show you that they are worth knowing those intimate things about you. So I'm so glad that you brought up discernment because that is so important to be able to identify what role does this person play in my life and what season are we in our relationship. Thank you for bringing that up. So when it comes to your journey, can you share a defining moment or an experience from your journey that led you to where you are today, especially when it comes to overcoming adversity?
Wow. One of the things was I went through terrible divorce that left me broken. It left me isolated. It left me in a bad mental space. And I can just remember the way I felt, that emptiness, that confusion, not really understanding the situation or the space that I was in. But I do know that God allows things to happen. For whatever reason, he allows things to happen, whether it's for us to grow, whether it's for us to learn from a situation, he allows things to happen. And so during that time, I feel like it was a learning experience for me. It taught me resilience. It taught me to give myself grace. It taught me how to cry out. It taught me how to pray. It taught me who God was and how good his grace and mercy was during that time because it was a bad time for me. And so as time went on, I was able to pick up the pieces. There were times where my mind was just all over the place. And so I was able to find strategies, reaching out to people for people to pray for me, people to talk to me, people to pour into me, people to give me good advice. I had a coach that was there to be able to every day to talk to me, to give me different strategies and to pray with me, to teach me how to pray. And that's so important. That's one point that I want to bring out is I know that there are a lot of women out there that don't know how to pray, when trouble comes and when they're dealing with their emotions and things. And it's so important to have someone to help you learn how to pray, how to go to God, how to get in your quiet space and hear from God. Because I promise you, once you cry out to him, he will respond back to you. And overcoming that was hard. It was hard. I'm not going to say that it was easy. It was hard. But once I decided that I was going to put up the fight for me, that I was going to come out of that, I started seeing the end of the road. And I started applying those things to my life in order for me to feel better. I'm not going to say that I'm 100%, but I'm better than where I was. I'm not in the low place that I was. I may be not at the peak of the mountain, but I might be hiking the mountain. And that's okay too, because everybody has a time. Everybody has a way to get there. So don't think that you got to rush up the mountain. No, because sometimes you can miss steps going up the mountain. You can miss something that's pivotal for you. So take your time, give yourself grace, and allow God to be God.
So when you were going through your broken stage, I know you probably had days where you felt like this is never going to end. Oh my God. Like you probably felt like you were just never going to come out of that.
Yes.
But you said there was a shift and you decided to fight for yourself. Can you speak to a person that's listening and they just can't see the end of the tunnel? They just feel like that this day will never end. what can you say to encourage them to just keep going and to just hold on?
I would tell that person that keep fighting, keep praying. If you don't know the words to pray, just say Jesus. Jesus. Just call on Jesus. Sometimes you don't even have the words to say. Sometimes you don't even know where you coming from, where where you're going, where you're coming from. But just calling out the name Jesus. And like I said, I can remember many nights being on the floor and just crying in agony and waking up in the morning and crying, just not really understanding why is this person doing this to me. And especially if you have given all, and this is for my married sisters, this is for my sisters that are in relationships or relationship period. Sometimes when you're going through with a person in a relationship and your things are breaking up or whatever the case may be, you have to understand that sometimes God will dismantle that relationship to save you. Sometimes that unhealthy relationship that you may be in, God is saving you from destruction. He sees something up the road. I know it may hurt, and I've been there. I know how that feels. I know how that rejection feels. I know how that isolation feels. But in that process, continue to pray and ask God for strength. Ask Him to strengthen you. While you're in the valley, ask Him to strengthen you so that you can endure, that your mind doesn't snap in the process. And I promise you, as time go on, it will get better. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be peaches and cream, but we have to endure for a while because the Bible says after we have suffered a while, He will reestablish us. So we know that He will do it. So we just have to endure just a little while and it's going to get better.
That is so true. And you briefly touched on that you may not be at the peak of the mountain, but you are climbing up the mountain. I'm so glad that you recognize that you're not where you were. Because sometimes we get so focused on where we want to be that we miss the journey that we're on. And so we don't celebrate those milestones. We don't celebrate those moments. So I like to encourage people to celebrate, whether it's big or small, you have to celebrate because that will give you the motivation to keep going. That will give you the encouragement to keep going. So don't let people discredit your accomplishments, right? They may say you always interesting or you always have something going on, but you have to be able to celebrate your growth and celebrate those milestones. The final question that I have for you, balancing faith, family, and business, it can be challenging. So how do you navigate this in your own life, and what strategies or practices have been instrumental for you in maintaining that balance?
Prioritize. Prioritizing your time. You have time for work. You have time for your children. You have time for yourself. And then you have time for God. God being first. You always want to put Him first. You want to be able to prioritize that time with Him in order for you to be able to grow spiritually, for you to be able to start your day every day, and then being able to, from there, be with your family. Have that time with your family. But also, after that, you want to be able to have time for yourself. I can't say that enough because I am learning to advocate for myself, even with everything. So with my business, with Girls Talk, I have to work on that and prioritize that in my day, but not spending my whole day working. Just making sure that I'm doing what I need to do, but also taking the time for me. So I would say prioritizing is a big deal when you're dealing with faith, family.
Listen, prioritizing is so important because a lot of the times we feel like that the society tells us you're not working 80 hours a week. What are you doing? Like society really hypes us up to make us believe that we have to burn ourselves out in order to be successful. So prioritizing your family, prioritizing your faith, prioritizing those things that you need to accomplish is important, but you also have to have balance because the last thing that you want is to work so hard and you don't get to enjoy it, right? You have giving yourself an aneurysm, giving yourself a stroke, giving yourself a heart attack, high blood pressure, all of these things, simply because you have no balance and you just all about the grind. Until like talked about prioritizing, because that is so important. Marissa, we have enjoyed you here on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining. Please rate this episode and share this podcast with your family and friends. To learn more about your host, visit www.brooksdeming.com.
Hi, I'm Tiffany of Tiffany Brown Designs. With over 20 years of creative experience across industries, I create and elevate brands one design at a time through intentional graphic and brand design, polished film and video editing, and creative artistry. Even the music you're hearing right now, that was produced by me. I also create custom tracks for websites, intros and outros, and content. So what are you waiting for? Visit TiffanyCBrownGD.com and let's bring your vision to life.